Yo, what's up, chefs? It's Vinny, and welcome to my ultimate high investment Flicker Strike Invoker guide. As always, you can find a super detailed written planner with trade links, a POB import code for those of you that like to nerd out in POB, just a bunch of extra details, super straightforward, very helpful. You can find a link for this down in the description. Do me a favor when you head down there, hit the subscribe button. And with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the guide. And first things first, I'm going to hop into a map real quick just to give you guys a brief overview of the game, like general gameplay loop. And then after that, I'll do a quick brief pinnacle boss demonstration as well, just so you guys know what you're getting into. So like I said, let's go ahead and start off with the map. I'm not going to do the full thing, just going to hop into it real quick just to show you guys a brief rundown of the gameplay loop. Let's go ahead and get started. Feel free to pause, look at the modifiers of the Waystone. Here you can press pause again, look at the modifiers over here if you want. Monster level 80, nothing super crazy, just a general Giga juicy map. So the general gameplay loop is as follows. You're going to start the map off, run in, use Stormwave. You're going to build up Reaper's Invocation by killing enemies. You're going to use Reaper's Invocation, which will proc Profane Ritual. This is going to give you power charges. Use your first set of power charges on Charged Staff. After that, you're going to build up a Reaper's Invocation again. And you just do that once again by killing enemies with Stormwave. As you can see, it's built up. I'm going to use it. This is going to give me power charges. And then you can start using Flicker Strike. Now, of course, you don't want to use Flicker Strike on a singular mob. You want to actually wait until you've got like a pack of mobs. You don't really have to wait per se, but it's just better used on big packs. Look at that. Nice little Divine Orb. Don't mind if I do. And yeah, now I'll just kind of bounce through a little bit just to show you guys a little bit more. We got the Abyssal area here real quick. Just make quick work of it. So here all we're doing is we're just Flicker Striking, and then we like use Reaper's Invocation, roll around. And while we wait for the power charge to get it, or we roll around while we wait for the power charges to get to us, and then we just Flicker Strike again. So there, Reaper's Invocation, got my power charges, got power charges again. And unfortunately, I'm not getting like a full stack of 7 each time, but you know, it's not the end of the world. You can mix in some storm waves here and there as well if you want. It definitely doesn't hurt. Now things are starting to get a little crazy because I've got a whole bunch of Headhunter mods going, so I'm going to start blinking around and stuff, but you get the idea. As you can see, there's a lot of loot in this map. Big jump right there. Let's see, can we get another big jump somewhere? Maybe right here. So now the jump is happening super quickly because we have so much attack speed from Headhunter. And yeah, hopefully you guys kind of get an idea of what the build's like. Obviously, it is just incredibly strong at this point. Like, you can't even see what's happening because we're moving so fast. We got another Tink. Nice. Little Tink. And then I'll try and give you guys a quick demonstration of like just how tanky the build really is here in just a second. If I can finish up this breach and then find like a pack of mobs or whatever. Okay, yeah, so here's a whole ton of mobs. Well, unfortunately, Wind Dancer is going to kill them all, but like I can just take my hand off the keyboard and in combination of my Ghost Dance, my Wind Dancer and stuff, like, you basically can't die, you know, like. Alrighty though, I'm gonna go pick up those Tinks, and then I'll be right back with the boss demonstration. Catch you guys in a second. And boom, just like that, here we are at T4 Zesh. Gonna give you guys a quick walkthrough of what you need to do for pinnacle bosses. So first things first, go ahead and swap over your Flicker Strike Sport Gems. We're swapping Magnified Area for Garokhan's Resolve. We're swapping Pinpoint Critical for Inevitable Critical, Ancestral Call for Concentrated Area, which needs to go in our Quarterstaff Strike slots, my mistake. And then we're swapping Perpetual Charge for Overextend. Oops. And Perpetual Charge has to go in our inventory. In addition to that, we need power charges for the build to work. So to get our power charges, we're putting Profane Ritual here in place of Ghost Dance. We're going to drop down these 3 support gems. And then after that, we're going to slap Sacrifice in right here, put Sacrifice into our inventory, and we are good to go. Nothing else is needed. We no longer use Infernal Cry, so you don't need to do any swapping there or anything like that. You are good to go at this point. Simply weapon swap, Profane Ritual, get yourself some power charges, use Charged Staff, After that, get some more power charges for your Flicker Strike, and you are good to go. Doesn't matter what boss fight you're doing. If you want to be super safe or you don't have good enough gear for like Uber Arbiter, you can still run Infernal Cry, replace Herald of Ash, but you shouldn't need to if you have good enough gear. Boss starts, Storm Wave once, Flicker Strike, and big fella's gonzo. Very, very simple. If you know you're about to do a bunch of bosses back to back, just a quick tip, you can actually skip a few of these steps. So imagining that I still had my Ghost Dance and my Reaper's Invocation in here like normal. If I was about to do a bunch of Breachstones back to back, I would leave these boss Flicker Strike support gems in. I would run through the Breachstone just using Storm Wave. You can still use Flicker Strike with these gems. It's just not going to be quite as efficient, but you can still use it. Right before you get to the boss arena, or like right when you get over here to the big loot explosion, right when you get here, you're going to have a full, you should have 100% of your Reaper's Invocation, and you should have like 5, 6, 7 power charges or whatever. You're going to use Reaper's Invocation on these bodies, sprint to the boss arena, and you don't need to do the swap into like sacrifice or any of that stuff, because you can just carry the power charges over into the boss fight and you'll be good to go. I'll go ahead and roll a clip, or I'll put a clip up now of me doing what I'm talking about. Roll the clip. Alright, boom, here's the loot explosion. I got my Reaper's Invocation, Charge Staff, power charges. I'm going to use Reaper's Invocation. Got 7 power charges. I'm going to sprint to the boss arena, so that way we can start his little RP phase in time. And you'll see it's very simple. I don't have to do any swaps. I've already got my boss killing Flicker Strike supports in, and it's going to be easy peasy. There we go. Just like that. Easy peasy. Alrighty, so now that you guys have a good general understanding of how the build functions, how it works, how it plays, all that good stuff, I'm going to go ahead and hop into some more of the nitty-gritty details. Starting off, let's go into POB. I'm just going to kind of show off some of the strengths of the build. So as you can see up here, we have an effective hit pool of 135,000 with a Fizz max hit of 9.2k, Elemental max hit 37k, Chaos max hit 21k. The build is extremely tanky. Only a small portion of this is conditional, and like people throw around the word conditional with like a negative connotation, but the conditional aspect here is basically just like, are your eyes open and are you playing the character? Because really all this relies on is, are you getting power charges, which of course you're getting power charges all the time, and then are you getting endurance charges, and that's pretty much everything. The only other thing is blind, but we are applying blind through multiple different ways at the moment. Wind Dancer is applying blind. Our Elemental Expression is applying blind. We have a small chance to apply blind on every hit from some of our passive tree nodes. Simply put, we're blinding the enemies all the time. So it is very slightly conditional, but not really. It's basically just like, are you pressing your buttons and you have all your tankiness. We've got 7,800 energy shield when we have everything going, which is, once again, at that point, it's just power charges, endurance charges. You can even see, like, if I take both of them off, I'm at 5965. In game, I'm at 5965. So, of course, when we're mapping, we're at 7807. You probably saw that a little bit in the mapping showcase. I wasn't really pressing my buttons super well in that mapping showcase because I was kind of yapping at the same time. But that's the energy shield. Evasion, we've got 28.8k, which is just like a nuclear amount, 80% chance to evade. While we're just sitting in hideout, we're at 70% with 22k. But of course, part of this is coming from endurance charges. Once again, part of it is coming from, do we have energy shield, which we do. And then the rest of it is just coming from, have we been hit recently, which, to be fair, we're not always have been hit recently because we have so much evade. We have such a high percent chance to evade, but when we do get hit, you know, that kicks in and we're all the way up to 80%. And that little bit of conditional nature of like whether or not we've been hit recently is not actually much. As you can see, it's only 50% increased evasion if we've been hit recently. So it's not a massive amount. Generally speaking, the build is just unbelievably tanky. Like, I know some people don't really like the EHP metric. They think it's like kind of a bait, but in no way, shape, or form can I agree with that. I mean, obviously, if I take like a 10,000 damage physical hit, I will die, but that just doesn't happen. It just literally doesn't happen. I'm level 96. I've died 10 times. I literally like face roll the hardest maps in the game. Yeah, I mean, the build is just unbelievably tanky, and we've sacrificed a lot of tankiness as well. Like, we have put a lot of investment into rarity of items found. As you can see, we have 112%. Usually I'm actually running around with 2 rarity runes in my chest piece, but I just wanted to keep it symmetrical with the POB, so I don't have those in right now, but I do play with those. Like when I'm actually just playing the game off stream or off recording, whatever, I run around with the rarity runes because we're just that tanky. Like we're too tanky, you know. It is basically impossible to die at this point. So yeah, it's very, very strong. As you can see, Flicker Strike doing 543k, but if we swap over to the bossing setup, it's up to basically 1.2 million, so insanely high damage. You've seen the boss demonstrations in the intro and what I just did with T4 Zesht. You know, the build is just incredibly strong. So now that we've kind of got that out of the way, of course, we're 75 resist everywhere. I've contemplated upping my resist cap for Cold Fire Lightning via like Heart of the Well and stuff like that, but it's just... it seems overkill. We just don't need it, so I've left everything at 75. And of course, we are chaos capped as well because we're not playing CI. If you want to play CI, that's up to you. It's your prerogative. It's not bad, but I just personally, I don't prefer to go CI in a setup like this. It just feels too easy now to get your chaos resistance with the new desecration modifiers. It's very, very simple. I've pretty much got all of my chaos res from the ring, the mirrored ring, and then the helmet, and then I just have 1 chaos res rune, and like we're good to go. So, you know, I kind of just like having the life. It helps with the stun threshold, things of that nature. So yeah, but it's up to you. If you want, you can go CI. It's no big deal. We've also got a bleed charm, which helps since we're not CI, but like I said, that's up to you. Feel free. If you look on POE Ninja, it's like 50-50 for Flicker Strike players. Half of them go CI, half of them don't. It really doesn't make much of a difference as far as I'm concerned. Hopping into the skill gems, the written planner is super detailed, very straightforward, very helpful, so I'm not going to go over every single skill gem or every single support gem for that matter. I'm only going to go over like the things that have changed from the previous guide to now, or just things that aren't immediately obvious. Starting off with Flicker Strike, of course, as you guys are aware, we have 2 Flicker Strike setups, 1 for mapping, 1 for bossing. Everything in the mapping setup or the mapping support gems is the same as before, except we replaced rapid attacks with magnified area. This is purely speculative. Just to be clear, I'll throw up the PoE2 wiki, and there's a multitude of Reddit threads about this too. Like, no one knows for sure what scales the area of effect of Flicker Strike, like the range in which you can teleport from one enemy to another. No one knows for sure, as far as I can tell. The wiki and a multitude of people and myself seem to agree that magnified area or increased area of effect does apply here, because increased area damage or more area damage definitely applies. As you can see, damage goes up. And just from like personal experience, it feels like magnified area or increased area of effect increases the teleport range. So that's why we're using it. We don't need the attack speed from rapid attacks because we just get so much attack speed while mapping thanks to Headhunter. Also, Onslaught from our weapon is giving us 20% skill speed, so we just don't need rapid attacks anymore. Therefore, we're taking magnified area. It makes it a little bit smoother. You have less instances where your Flicker Strike just kind of like abruptly ends, and you're getting more like big juicy Flicker Strikes this way. So that's my recommendation. For the bossing setup side of things, everything should be the exact same as before. The only difference is now we're using Garkon's Resolve instead of Elemental Armament. And of course, this is replacing Magnified Area. I already showed that in the bossing demonstration. Garkon's Resolve, bit of a complicated support gem. Essentially what this does is if you have 100% crit chance, which we do, this will make it so that your attack gets double the critical damage bonus. As you can see right here, if both rolls succeed, the hit will be a critical hit, and the critical damage bonus will apply twice to that hit. So if I put Garkon's Resolve in, you can see all of a sudden I have this, where is it? Yeah, so we have main hand critical hit chance, main hand effective chance for critical hit, and the main hand effective chance for twice critical hit. You can see it's only at 88.3% right now, but that's because we don't have our power charges running. When we do, that'll go up to 100%, as you'll see here. Bada bing. Get some power charges, come back, and now as you can see, we have 100% crit chance across the board. So since we have 336% critical damage bonus, that'll get doubled. So simply put, we're doing a shit ton of extra damage because of Garrokan's Resolve. Once you get enough gear, you don't even need to swap all of these support gems for bosses. I only swap Garrokan's Resolve and Inevitable Critical, and I like still obliterate T4 Zest and stuff, so that's just something you can keep in mind. Oops. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. That's how Garrokan's Resolve works. It's a bit of a complicated one, so I thought I'd just explain that really quick. Stormwave, nothing has changed here, all the same. Charge Staff, all the same. Herald of Thunder, there are some pretty key changes here. We're now running Deadly Herald in this, and we're also running Piety's Mercy, which some of you are probably saying, like, wow, this guy is an idiot. He put a support gem in here that says the skill cannot kill enemies with hits, which, of course, Herald of Thunder is doing hits. But it actually is very, very important. This solves two problems for us. The first problem is Reaper's Invocation, which let me go and put that back in really quick. Reaper's Invocation will not build up energy from things that are killed with Herald of Thunder, because it only builds up energy for things you kill with melee attacks, which Herald of Thunder is not a melee attack. It is an attack, but it's not melee. So anything that dies to Herald of Thunder doesn't build up Reaper's Invocation, which is kind of a problem whenever you get like really good gear like we have now, because your Herald of Thunder is killing a lot of stuff when you're like bouncing around with Flicker Strike and you don't have Piety's Mercy in. So you're like not getting that much energy from Reaper's Invocation that way. In addition to that, and this is like the bigger problem, the second part is whenever you get a bunch of modifiers running from Headhunter and you have like ridiculously high area of effect, because you'll get like some area of effect modifiers and you're just doing these massive explosions, you'll jump into a pack with Flicker Strike, you'll hit one enemy and like 50 enemies will explode, and all of a sudden there's nothing for your Flicker Strike to jump to. And it's actually like, it's like counterintuitive, because like your character got way stronger, but you lost like a lot of efficiency. And the only way to actually solve that is to throw in Piety's Mercy and make it so that your Herald of Thunder is not actually killing stuff. It's just doing damage to it. That way you can still jump around with Flicker Strike and you're getting your Reaper's Invocation charges. And we have no problems there anymore. So that is very important once you start to get like really good gear. And especially once you get Headhunter, you pretty much need to throw this on. Outside of that, everything else should be the exact same. All the other skills, Wind Dancer, Charge Regulation, Herald of Ash, Reaper's Invocation, Ghost Dance, everything's going to be the same. One other thing I will just point out in regards to the Heralds, in the previous video, I said I was kind of undecided between Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ash, and Herald of Ice, like which combination of two did I think was the best. And I did some further testing on this, and hands down, do not use Herald of Ice. Trust me, like if anybody's telling you to use Herald of Ice with Flicker Strike, unless they have some really unique setup, they're wrong. The problem with Herald of Ice, after like actually really investing into it and trying to make it work, and I'll throw up the POE 2 wiki for this as well. In order to make Herald of Ice proc, you have to freeze enemies and then you have to shatter them. When you shatter them, they don't leave a corpse. When they don't leave a corpse, that means you can't use Profane Ritual, so you can't get power charges. What this means is if you have too much cold damage on your gear, so like if you're trying to do Herald of Ice, you need cold damage to freeze. If you have too much cold damage on your gear and you start freezing everything you fight, you're not going to be able to get any power charges. You will run it, even without using a Herald of Ice, you will occasionally run into this problem if you pick up the freeze shrine, like the shrine with the little like freezy ball that circles around it. If you pick that up, It gives you damage gained as cold. Holy shit, this guy just bought my helmet for 35 div. Sheesh. Anyways, it'll give you damage gained as cold. You're going to start freezing everything, and you'll notice their bodies disappear. They get shattered into a bunch of pieces. You can't use Profane Ritual on anything, and all of a sudden you have no power charges. And, like, the build's still fine. You just can't Flicker Strike. So all you're doing at that point is running around using Stormwave, which is good, but it's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to use Flicker Strike because it's fun. So Herald of Ice is an absolute no-go. You'll also run into this issue when you pick up the Shrine with the Skull that makes like everything poof. Whenever you hit it or kill it or whatever, it just poofs. No bodies get left behind. Can't use Profane Ritual. It's an issue. Same thing in Simulacrum. But like none of this bricks the build. You can still do T4 Simulacrum, no problem, all that stuff. You just can't use Flicker Strike because you can't get power charges. So just thought I'd throw that out there. Herald of Ash, Herald of Thunder, definitely the way to go. Moving on to the gear, same thing here. I've got all the trade links in the written planner. They're super helpful. They are a bit specific this time around because this is the high investment version. So like there's not a ton of wiggle room if you want to, have a lower budget version. The previous video is perfect for that. There's low budget options in the guide with trade links for that as well, 10 to 15 div. But if you're trying to mimic the high investment version, I've got the trade links for that. I'm just going to go over my gear really quick and kind of explain the important aspects of what you're looking for. So starting off with the weapon, gloves, and amulet, because these are like the most important. This is where your damage is coming from primarily, and the ring kind of, but mainly the weapon, gloves, and amulet. For the weapon, I think you don't have much wiggle room here. I think you pretty much need high tier flat lightning, high tier flat fire, increased elemental damage with attacks, critical hit chance, and +6 to level of all attack skills. Like all of those I would say are 100% mandatory. You could swap increased elemental damage with attacks for something, but it's just going to be worse. Like hands down period, it will be worse. So that'd be like a budget option if you want. The only spot that I'd say you have wiggle room for in like a really high tier min-max setup would be Onslaught. And Onslaught, hands down, is the most efficient choice if you're like mapping, if you're doing logbooks, anything like that where you're running around. If all you're doing is bosses, or you just don't care about being efficient, you can swap this out with crit damage bonus, and that will give you a lot more damage. But it's like way overkill levels of damage. Like we already have too much damage. We don't need more damage. Now we're just looking to scale our speed, become immortal, things of that nature, which of course Onslaught definitely does that for us. It gives us attack speed or skill speed, which is basically attack speed, and also movement speed. And we keep this up throughout the entire map, so it's just a ton of value. I would not skip out on it. Moving on to the gloves, same thing here. I'd say there's not much wiggle room. You're pretty much looking at triple flat damage for prefixes. And then for suffixes, mandatory is +2 level of melee skills and critical damage bonus. The rarity of items found, if you want to be like a Giga baller, you can swap that out for increased socket effect, get a pair of exceptional gloves with 2 sockets, socket in rarity, or not rarity, attack speed. You could socket in chaos res, so you could like drop chaos res on other pieces of gear. But truthfully, because most people will do this for attack speed on like other builds in the game right now, it doesn't do much for us. Like attack speed does not scale our build very well. We already have too much attack speed for Stormwave pretty much, which I'll kind of get into in a minute. Not like too much, but we have way more than enough. We're getting attack speed from Onslaught. We're getting a ton of attack speed from Headhunter. We just don't need it. All it does is make our Flicker Strike like bounce around quicker, which is cool, and it's like a little bit helpful, but not really. It's like nowhere near as helpful as it is for other builds, so I wouldn't worry about it. I'd just save the currency for a future build or something like that, or I would just get rarity. Like honestly, rarity is probably just better, all things considered. So these are like pretty much perfect gloves. The only thing I could do here is, increase the tier on some of the modifiers, but they're obviously very good. Moving on to the amulet. Basically, maybe not a mirror tier amulet, but this is a godly amulet that we crafted actually. And I would say same thing here. There's not much wiggle room. The suffixes are mandatory: crit chance, damage bonus, and melee skills. If you really wanted, you could swap the crit node or crit modifiers for resistances and rarity or something like that, and just like free up space on other pieces. But I would highly not recommend it because this amulet specifically is pretty easy to craft. And then the 3 prefixes, global defenses, comes from the essence, the perfect essence, which is kind of mandatory because it's like how you craft it. And then outside of that, you could swap an evasion rating for increased energy shield. You could swap the desecrated mod for like one of the non-desecrated defense prefixes, but once again, crafting it this way is very easy, and this is just incredibly valuable. Like you're getting an amulet better than this by like marginally better at most. So this is definitely the way to go for the amulet. I wouldn't change a single modifier here. After that, we'll hop into the rings. Like I said, rings are another pretty key part to our damage, but just not as vital as like the weapon, gloves, or amulet. At least in my case, like, I mean, ring and amulet are pretty hand in hand for how impactful they are to your damage, I suppose. But of course, we've got the Calandra's Touch, so that's mirroring this ring. And generally speaking, you're looking for either 2 flat damage plus increased lightning damage as a prefix, or 3 flat damage rolls for your prefixes, or you could do what I've done, where you get 2 flat damage rolls and rarity. You'll kind of notice a pattern here. I put a high priority on rarity because I just think rarity is still insanely strong. I've done a couple tests with it, and it seems very, very good, so I like to get a lot of rarity on my character, and we just have too much damage, so like I don't need a triple flat roll here. I can take the rarity, and then for the suffixes, you're just getting all resistances, and the reason for that is because we're using Headhunter, and we're getting like deflection rating and faster start of energy shield. Like we basically aren't getting resistances from many other places. We're getting no resistances from our gloves, no resistances from our amulet. We're getting no resistances from our chest piece. So we're getting a massive, pretty much almost all of our resistances from our ring. Like if I take this ring off, you can see I go -45, -11, 27. Like that's pretty much all of our resistances coming from this and the Calandra's Touch. Trade Link will have you, good to go for this. You can get a ring. I think I got this one for like 16, 17 div. And then Calandra's Touch is also like 15 div. So it's about the same. This is probably one of the things I upgrade next, would be getting like a 40, 50 div ring. Could be slightly better, but generally speaking, it couldn't be much better. Like this is almost as good as it gets. I could get a breach ring, of course, but I like the implicit from the prismatic right here. I think it definitely helps me because it's helping me meet the breakpoints. But I could actually, switch things around a little bit and make this slightly better. But all things considered, it is extremely good. And obviously, we have Calandra's Touch mirroring it. For the belt, we have Headhunter. Obviously, needs no introduction. Headhunter is just incredibly, incredibly strong on pretty much any build in the game. If you can fit it in. Like, for attack builds at least. Not every caster or minion build obviously wants to use it, but it's just insanely good. It is a little bit quirky with Flicker Strike compared to like other builds, I will say, because certain modifiers will have you blinking around and you're already trying to blink around with Flicker Strike, and it can like get a little bit disorienting, to be honest. Like you start to like, where the fuck am I, like type of feeling. But it's just incredibly strong. You get a lot of area of effect usually from your Headhunter, which just feels so good for this build. Your Heralds are like screen-wide AoE. Your Flicker Strike is teleporting around at super long range. It's just super duper good. Moving on to the helmet, super obvious or like super simple. Just triple energy shield prefix, nothing super special. For your suffixes, it's kind of like whatever you need. Primarily resistances, rarity would be my go-to here. If you really want to, you can get crit chance. You can get that as a suffix on your helmet, but I wouldn't recommend it. We don't need it. We're already getting crit chance from the amulet, and we have so much crit chance from the tree. And on top of that, we're getting crit chance from the quality effect of Flicker Strike. We're getting more crit chance from charge regulation. You really don't need it. I would just get rarity. If you don't need a triple resist suffix, get rarity. For your chest piece, same thing. Triple energy or triple defense prefix, so energy shield plus evasion, obviously, since we're using a hybrid chest piece. For the suffixes, I think faster start of energy shield is mandatory here because this is the only armor slot you can get it on, and I'm not using convalescence, and this is part of the reason why, is because I just don't think you need convalescence if you get this stat. If you don't get this stat, all of a sudden, you know, having Convalescence feels a little bit more mandatory, but I definitely don't think I need it. And I think it's because I prioritize this on the chest piece, so I'd recommend that to you guys as well. Deflection rating also super duper good here. And then, you know, outside of that, resistances or attributes, whichever you need. I went for attributes here, but at some point I will probably swap that over to resistances now that I've got the Headhunter, which is kind of covering my attribute issues. And then for the boots, a lot of the same. Obviously, you want 30 to 35% increased movement speed, whatever you can afford. Then you want double defense prefix beyond that. So like energy shield evasion prefixes, as you can see here. And then for your suffixes, a lot of the same. Resistances, attributes, rarity, nothing super special. If you want, you can go for deflection rating on the boots too, but it does get a little bit pricey. And it makes like figuring out your resistances and your attributes a little bit more complicated. But I would say you definitely want deflection rating on one of either your boots or your chest piece, at least one spot. And with just the deflection rating on my chest piece, I've got 44% chance to deflect. And the curve for deflection starts to get really like wonky at like 9 to 10,000. So anything more than 9 to 10k deflection and you're kind of like wasting potential there, or you're not getting much value. So we're pretty close to the sweet spot as far as I'm concerned with just the one roll. So I don't think you need to I don't think you need to double up unless you really, really want to for some reason. And then same with the gloves. If you want to be a big baller, in this case, like I would swap the intelligence or the rarity for increased effective socketed items. And then you would throw in double move speed runes. But just to be clear, getting a pair of boots like that are good and have the increased socket effect and double socket exceptional boots or whatever, it's going to be like 80 plus div. So it's not cheap whatsoever. And in the landscape of builds that's actually really helpful for, like this is one of the ones that it's less helpful for. It's kind of the same thing with the gloves. Like we're flicker striking so much, and like throughout a large percentage of the map, we're actually just in our flicker strike animation to the point where move speed is just like not super, it's not as big of a deal for us as it is like a lightning arrow build that's running around on a Roa the entire map. Like move speed is king for somebody that's running around on a Roa. For us, it's still super valuable, but just a little bit less so. So I wouldn't throw the bank at getting a pair of boots with increased socket effect unless you just got like, you know, a pile of currency laying around, of course. Other than that, the only other thing I wanted to briefly mention about the items is for your weapon, you should be using the Rune of the Sky for gain percent of damage as extra damage of all elements. And then you need one Greater Mind Rune. And this actually replaces the need for having any items with leech mana. So before we needed a mana leech ring, and that was comboing with Walker of the Wilds to give us infinite mana sustain. When you have this much damage and you're at this level of investment, and honestly even before this, like probably on the lower budget version, you could do this as well. Instead of getting a mana leech ring, just throw one of these runes into your weapon and you'll be good to go. You have infinite mana sustain as long as you're hitting enemies. You never need to touch your mana flask. You're good to go. Only other thing I'll say is for spirit skills, you want to obviously have a hybrid chest piece with a lot of evasion and energy shield. That will actually be what gives you your spirit. Just to like kind of showcase that really quick, if I take my chest piece off, I'm at 100 spirit. If I put it back on, I'm at 226. And that is obviously thanks to the Lead Me Through Grace Ascendancy node. Alrighty, and somehow this video is already over 30 minutes long, so I'm going to try and wrap things up pretty concisely here. For the flasks, your life flask, if you want to be overkill, you can go for an Olroth's Resolve. That's going to be the best choice, but it's like 15 div. It's not that big of a difference, so it's really not something I'd worry about too much. For the charms, obviously Thawing Charm, Dousing Charm, and Staunching Charm are pretty much the way to go until you have like 300 div to drop on a gold charm, the Rite of Passage. Up until that point, I would just run these three. And then for the mana flask, the important part is increased charges. You do want to make sure that your mana flask has increased charges because this combos with Ambrosia, which will consume 20% of your maximum mana flask charges on use to give you more damage. So the more charges you have, the more damage you're getting from Ambrosia. That is actually quite important. Don't skip out on that. And then for the passive tree, for the Ascendancy nodes, I wouldn't change anything here. Truthfully, like I don't think there's a singular other option that's valuable. Like if you really wanted to for some reason, you could swap Elemental Expression for Unbound Avatar, but there's literally no reason to. It is just unequivocally worse, so I wouldn't do it. And then for the rest of the passive tree, there's a little bit of wiggle room here and there. Like these 3 nodes, you could swap for something different, although they do give you a lot of evasion rating whenever you've hit an enemy recently. You're always hitting enemies. It's one of those conditionals where it's like, are your eyes open? Are you playing the game? It's very easy to meet the conditional, and it gives you a lot of value. These 3 points you could swap for something. Bestial Skin is like decent. These are like some of the last points we put in. But there's options here. Like you could come for Common Calamity is a decent choice. You could try and make like a big trip over here to this jewel socket, plus this movement speed is like pretty decent, but it's a little bit convoluted to like, you're going to have to remap some of your points to actually get down there. Outside of that, I mean, you could also come up here and get some of these nodes, but generally speaking, I've tested all of it. Like, trust me when I say I've tested all the different options here pretty much. The only thing I would say I haven't really tested is like some crazy megalomaniac variations where you get like certain notables filled out. Like you can get Subterfuge Mask from a megalomaniac, and then that saves you like 10 points right here. You just don't get any of this stuff, and then with that you could route down here. I haven't tested that, and that could be better, but it would also be very expensive, and it's going to be like marginally better at best, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. The only other thing I'll touch on really quick is the jewels. I do have trade links in the written planner for jewels. Of course, you know me, I've got a trade link for Heart of the Well even, which is like a really complicated jewel to search for, but I've gone through every single possible modifier and made a good trade link for our build for it. You could actually use this trade link for like any attack build as well, probably. But it's pretty specific, or like it's specifically really good for the Flicker Strike setup. So you can use that trade link. You can get a really good Heart of the Well like this. I got this one for like 16 div. It's super good. Gave me a ton of damage. I have a trade link for regular Sapphire Jewels as well. Sapphire Jewels are still really good for this build. Like if you're on a budget, I wouldn't be afraid to just rock 2 or 3 of these. Or 2, I would say. Like no matter what, you should grab a From Nothing with passives in radius of Zealot's Oath can be allocated, which will give you this circle up here. Within this circle, you're going to grab the 3 25% attack damage nodes, obviously. This is just going to give you a ton of value. Like, bang for your buck is hard to beat. And also, you can get this From Nothing diamond for, like, 1 a null or something. It's, like, super duper cheap. So I wouldn't skip out on that. And, yeah, other than that, the rest of the passive tree should be incredibly self-explanatory. We're just getting crit damage, crit chance, in pretty much every spot we can. Outside of that, we're mostly just getting defensive nodes. Like, we don't really need much extra damage. It's basically just crit. It's basically just crit chance, crit damage, and defense. And that's pretty much all she wrote. So other than that, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it informative. If you did, please make sure to hit subscribe, like. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. Other than that, I'll catch you in the next one. Later, chefs.